In the heart of Nigeria, amidst the exploring savannas and fertile lands, lay the kingdom of Umuaku. Its ruler, King Abuchi, was a man of towering ambition and unbridled cruelty. He ruled over his domain with an iron fist, his decrees enforced by fear and violence. From the moment he ascended to the throne, King Abuchi had one goal in mind: to amass wealth and power at any cost. To achieve his ends, he exploited his people and neighboring villages mercilessly, demanding the largest and best farm products as tribute, regardless of the toll it took on the land or the livelihood of those who toiled upon it. The people of Umuaku lived in constant fear of their king's wrath, their lives subject to his whims and desires. Those who dared to oppose him were met with swift and brutal retribution, their cries for mercy falling on deaf ears as King Abuchi tightened his grip on power. But amidst the oppression and despair, there arose a flicker of hope. A young farmer named Onyema, hailing from a neighboring village, dared to defy the king's cruel demands. With a heart full of courage and a spirit unbroken by fear, Onyema refused to bow down to tyranny. It began with a simple act of defiance. When King Abuchi's tax collectors came to Onyema's village, demanding the largest portion of their harvest as tribute, he stood his ground. With a steely gaze and a voice filled with conviction, Onyema declared that enough was enough. He would no longer allow the king to bleed his people dry for his own selfish gain. The king's enforcers were taken aback by Onyema's boldness, but their shock quickly turned to anger. They threatened him with violence, promising to bring down the full force of the king's wrath upon him and his village if they did not comply. But Onyema would not be intimidated. He rallied his fellow villagers to his cause, their collective determination a powerful force against the king's tyranny. Together, they refused to hand over their hard-earned crops, daring to challenge the authority of their oppressor. Word of Onyema's defiance spread like wildfire, igniting a spark of bravery in the heart of those who had long suffered under King Abuchi's rule. Villages far and wide joined in the uprising, their voices raised in solidarity against the injustice they had endured for too long. As the rebellion grew in strength, so too did the king's fury. He unleashed his army upon the rebellious villages, their swords and spears cutting through the ranks of the resistance with ruthless efficiency. But Onyema and his allies were not so easily defeated. They fought back with everything they had, their determination unyielding in the face of overwhelming odds. Each victory emboldened them further, their resolve strengthened by the knowledge that they fought not just for themselves, but for the future of their land and their people. As the conflict raged on, alliances were forged and betrayals uncovered, testing the loyalty of friends and foes alike. Amidst the chaos and bloodshed, Onyema emerged as a beacon of hope, his unwavering courage inspiring others to stand up and fight for their freedom. But the road to victory was fraught with peril, and the price of defiance was steep. Many lives were lost in the struggle, their sacrifices a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Yet for every loss, there were moments of triumph, small victories that served as beacons of hope in the darkness. With each passing day, the tide began to turn, the balance of power shifting ever so slightly in favor of the rebellion. But King Obi was not one to go down without a fight. With his kingdom on the brink of collapse, he unleashed his most ruthless tactics yet, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. And so, as the sun set on the kingdom of Uzoka, the stage was set for a final showdown between the forces of tyranny and the champions of freedom. The outcome of the conflict remained uncertain, hanging in the balance as the fate of an entire kingdom rested on the shoulders of those brave enough to defy the king's iron fist. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and red, the kingdom of Umuaku braced itself for the impending clash. In the heart of the capital city, the walls of the royal palace loomed like silent sentinels, bearing witness to the unfolding dramas that would determine the fate of the realm. Within the palace walls, King Abuchi seated with rage, his once unshakable confidence now tinged with uncertainty. He had never faced a challenge quite like this before, and the defiance of Onyema and his allies gnawed at his pride like a festering wound. Surrounded by his most trusted advisors and generals, King Abuchi plotted his next move with grim determination. His army stood ready, their weapons sharpened and their resolve unyielding, prepared to crush the rebellion once and for all. But as the king laid out his plan for the coming battle, whispers of dissent echoed through the halls of the palace. Not all who served him were as loyal as they appeared, and there were those among his rank who harbored secret sympathies for the rebels. Among them was Captain Adisa, a seasoned warrior whose loyalty to the king had long been unquestioned. But as he listened to the king's order, a seed of doubt took root in his heart. Was this truly the path to victory, or was it a fool's errand that would only lead to further bloodshed and suffering? In the dead of night, as the kingdom slumbed beneath a blanket of stars, Captain Addison slipped away from the palace, his mind weighed down by the burden of his conscience. He sought out Onyema and his allies, offering them his sword and his loyalty in their fight against the king. Together, they hatched a daring plan to infiltrate the palace and confront King Abuchi head-on. With Captain Addison's knowledge of the palace's inner workings, they would strike swiftly and decisively, seizing control of the throne and bringing an end to the king's reign of terror. As dawn broke over the horizon, the rebel forces gathered outside the palace gates, their spirits high and their determination unshakable. With a mighty roar, they charged forward, their weapons glittering in the early morning light as they prepared to face their greatest challenge yet. Inside the palace, King Abuchi's grip on power was slipping. His once loyal subjects had turned against him, their hearts filled with righteous anger and a burning desire for freedom. With each passing moment, his kingdom crumbled around him, the foundation of his rule shaking to their core. But King Abuchi would not go down without a fight. As the rebel forces breached the palace walls, he rallied his remaining loyalists to his side, leading them into battle with a ferocity born of desperation. The clash that ensued was fierce and bloody, the air thick with the sound of clashing steel and anguished cries. Friends and foes alike fell beneath the onslaught, their bodies littering the palace ground like fallen leaves. In the midst of the chaos, Onyema and Captain Addison fought side by side, their bond forged in the heat of battle. Together they pressed forward, their eyes locked on the throne room where King Abuchi awaited them, his fate hanging in the balance. As they burst into the throne room, they found the king standing alone, his face twisted with rage and fear. With a defiant roar, Onyema charged forward, his sword raised high as he prepared to deliver the final blow. But before he could strike, Captain Addison stepped forward, his voice ringing out above the din of battle. "Enough," he said, his tone firm but not unkind. "The cycle of violence ends here today." King Abuchi's eyes widened in shock as he realized the truth of Captain Adisai's words. In that moment, he saw the folly of his ways, the emptiness of his pursuit of power at any cost. With a heavy heart, King Abuchi surrendered his crown, his reign of terror brought to an end by the bravery and determination of those who had dared to defy him. As the sun sets on the kingdom of Umuaku, a new era dawned, one defined not by fear and oppression, but by hope and freedom for all who called it home. In the aftermath of the uprising, the kingdom of Umuaku began the long and arduous process of rebuilding under the leadership of Onyema and Captain Adisa. A new era of peace and prosperity dawned, where the rights and dignity of every citizen were respected and protected. Gone were the days of tyranny and oppressions, replaced by a spirit of unity and cooperation that transcended old divisions and grievances. Villages once torn apart by strife now came together as brothers and sisters, their shared struggles forging bonds that could never be broken. As the season passed and the scars of the past began to fade, the people of Umuaku never forgot the lesson they had learned. They remembered the price of freedom and the importance of standing up for what was right, even in the face of overwhelming odds. And so, the story of King Abuchi and his reign of terror became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the corrosive effects of power wielded without compassion. But it was also a story of hope, of the indomitable spirit of ordinary people who refused to be cowed by fear and oppression. It was a testament to the power of courage and resilience, and the belief that even the darkest nights must eventually give way to the light of a new dawn. And so, as the kingdom of Umuaku looked towards the future with optimism and hope, they vowed to never forget the lessons of their past, for it was only by remembering the mistakes of yesterday that they could build a better tomorrow, one where justice and equality reign supreme for generations to come.